Carrick on Suir, a town in County Tipperary where most people know each other by name, where life moves slow, and crime is usually something you read about in the papers, not on your doorstep. But in the early hours of Monday, August 4th, 2025, that peace was shattered. At around 3:30 in the morning, emergency services were called to a modest home on Cregg Road. Inside, they found 49-year-old Ian Walsh, a man locals had known for years. He was lying motionless, and the first thing responders noticed was the blood. A pool of blood beneath him, silent but damning. Moments later, a local GP arrived and confirmed the unthinkable. Ian Walsh was dead. No one expected violence here, not like this. But this was no accident, and Gardaí knew it the second they stepped inside. Ian Walsh wasn't a stranger on Cregg Road. At 49 years old, he was known in town as a man who had put in years working for Irish Rail before switching careers to become a bus driver. Not the kind of person anyone expected to meet such a brutal end. He wasn't flashy. Neighbors describe him as quiet, polite, and steady, someone you'd nod to on the street, but who never made headlines. And yet, by the time Gardaí found him, Ian hadn't been seen alive since Friday evening around 8 o'clock. That left a chilling question. Had he been dead in his own home for nearly 3 full days before anyone even knew? The idea that a man could vanish into silence in such a small town surrounded by neighbors without anyone noticing, that's what makes this case so unsettling. When Gotti stepped into Ian Walsh's home on Cregg Road, they were met with a scene that raised more questions than answers. There was no sign of forced entry, no shattered glass, no broken locks, nothing that screamed a violent break-in. Whoever had entered that house either knew Ian or Ian had willingly let them inside. But what they did find couldn't be ignored. Ian's body showed clear stab wounds, his life cut short in an act of sudden, brutal violence. Blood marked the floor, a silent witness to what had happened inside those walls. The house was sealed off immediately. Forensic teams moved in, combing through every inch from door handles to floorboards, collecting DNA swabs, fingerprints, and anything else that could tell the story Ian Walsh himself no longer could. A quiet Irish street had just become the center of a murder investigation, and the real puzzle. Not a single neighbor reported hearing a thing. The last confirmed sighting of Ian Walsh was on Friday, August 1st, around 8 in the evening. After that moment, it's as if he disappeared into thin air. From Friday night until the grim discovery early on Monday morning, nearly 3 full days passed a chilling gap that investigators now call the vanishing weekend. Where was Ian in those hours? Did he stay home? Did someone come to visit him? Was he alive through the weekend, or had the killer struck earlier, leaving his body undiscovered for days? Gardaí know the answers lie in that 72-hour window. That's why they're scouring CCTV cameras, dash cam footage, and doorbell videos, appealing to every local resident in Carrick on Suir. In a small town, someone must have seen something. A car out of place, a figure walking late at night, a light on in Ian's house when it shouldn't have been. But so far the silence has been deafening. After the discovery, Ian Walsh's body was transferred to University Hospital Waterford for a full post-mortem examination. Gardaí needed answers. Was this truly a murder, and if so, exactly how had it been carried out? The autopsy confirmed what the blood at the scene already suggested. Ian had suffered stab wounds, multiple injuries consistent with a violent assault. It was now undeniable. This was not a natural death, not an accident, but a killing. The results sealed the case as a formal murder investigation. Gardaí immediately shifted their focus. Who had the motive? Who had the opportunity? And how had they managed to get inside Ian Walsh's home without leaving any sign of forced entry? The body told them the what. The town would have to help them find the who. From the moment the post mortem confirmed murder, the Gardaí went into overdrive. Investigators launched an intensive search for clues. Door to door inquiries began along Cregg Road and the nearby Ravenswood area, speaking to neighbors, asking if anyone had seen or heard unusual activity. Appeals went out for CCTV and dash cam footage covering the critical window between Friday evening, August 1st, and the early hours of Monday, August 4th. Locals were urged to check their doorbell cameras, their security systems, even their social media feeds for anything that might help stitch together Ian Walsh's final hours. Detectives know the answers are close. In a town this size, movements are noticed, cars are remembered, and strangers stand out. But so far, the case has been defined by silence. Gardaí stress that even the smallest detail, a light on at the wrong time, a car door shutting late at night, could be the missing piece in this puzzle. Here is the part that has everyone in Carrick on Suir whispering. Nobody heard a thing. No one reported shouts, a struggle, or even the crash of a fight inside Ian Walsh's home. For a crime involving stab wounds, the silence is chilling. This wasn't a loud break in. There were no splintered doors, no smashed windows. Whoever entered that house did it quietly and likely without force. That points to one terrifying possibility. Ian knew his killer. Think about it. In a close knit Irish town, a stranger at the door in the middle of the night would raise alarms. But someone Ian trusted? That's different. He would have opened the door without hesitation. Now the entire community is left to wonder. Was the killer someone who had walked those same streets, shared a drink in the same pubs, maybe even nodded hello to the very people now mourning Ian's death? With no forced entry and no witnesses, investigators are narrowing in on the most unsettling possibility. The killer was someone Ian Walsh knew. Three main theories have emerged so far. A personal dispute. A meeting that started calmly but spiraled out of control. Perhaps an argument, perhaps a grudge that had been festering. A planned attack. Someone may have been watching Ian, waiting for the right moment. The lack of forced entry could mean the killer used cunning slipping in when Ian was vulnerable, maybe even with a spare key. A betrayal of trust. The most chilling of all, Ian may have welcomed the killer into his home, never suspecting that the person sitting across from him would take his life. Gardaí aren't ruling anything out. They know that in a small town like Carrick on Suir, secrets don't stay buried forever. Someone out there knows more than they're saying. And as the hours tick by, the sense of unease only grows. Carrick on Suir is a town where news spreads fast, but this news, it hit like a hammer. By Monday afternoon, whispers filled the streets, the shops, the pubs. A 49-year-old man stabbed to death in his own home, and no one knew why. Neighbors described the atmosphere as tense, even fearful. Doors that were once left unlocked are now bolted. People glance twice at anyone they don't recognize. And behind every whispered conversation is the same haunting question. Who could do this? For many, the most chilling part isn't just the murder itself, it's the thought that the killer could be someone they know. Someone who still walks those same streets, blending in, carrying a secret that has torn the heart out of their community. This wasn't just a crime, it was a violation of the town's very sense of safety. The murder of Ian Walsh has now become one of the most urgent investigations in County Tipperary. Gardaí are piecing together every detail of Ian's final 72 hours, determined to find the truth hidden in that silence. Detectives continue to sift through CCTV footage, dash cam recordings, and door to door accounts. They've asked the public to come forward with even the smallest detail, a flicker of movement, a car parked where it shouldn't be, a face seen at an unusual hour. For now, there are no public arrests, no confirmed suspects, just a growing sense that whoever did this is still out there. And that's what unsettles Carrick on Suir the most. The idea that the killer could be someone they know, someone they've walked past on their way to work, someone who sits in the same cafes and shops, hiding in plain sight. The gaudy promise answers will come. But until then, one truth haunts the town: a man was murdered in his own home, and the killer walked away unseen. The silence of Cregg Road still lingers, but silence doesn't last forever.